good. Okay. Our speaker today is Robin Baker, and Robin is going to be, excuse me, reporting on work that he's been doing for the last, I guess, almost 3 years now in the Blue Mountains, beginning in Immigrant Springs and now extending over to Hillgard and LeGrand. So Robin's going to give us a update on that. I'll stop my share, and I think you're on, Roger. I mean, Robin.
Okay, I am screen sharing. Good.
Is that the home office?
That's the home office on the Deschutes. Okay. One of the problems with this. Okay. Okay, I have to remember how to do the slideshow. My icon's down on the bottom, and it's being hid by the Zoom taskbar.
Yeah.
Okay, how about if we do this?
That should do it.
Okay. Presentation today is about our 2023 Northwest OCTA Oregon Trail explorations in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. Dave showed you the location, but I also have a location map here. Located between Pendleton and LeGrand. And just for those people on the call who might not be real familiar with Oregon, the route of the Oregon Trail roughly parallels the red line here, which is Interstate 84 across the Blue Mountains. And here's a close-up view. Crosses in a northwesterly direction from LeGrand in the Grand Ronde Valley in the lower right up to the Umatilla River Valley in the upper left. And this is the elevation profile of the Oregon Trail across the Blue Mountains. We have LeGrand at about 3,000 feet on the left, going over the Blue Mountains and down to the Umatilla River near Pendleton, 40 miles on the lower right. And I've got some waypoints here: Hillgard State Park, which is a popular camping spot; the Blue Mountain Crossing, which is the U.S. Forest Service interpretive site; Lee's encampment at Meacham; and the Emigrant Springs at the state park, about 2.5, 3 miles further along the trail. They've also marked the Dead Man's Pass rest stop. This is on I-84 right here, just before they climbed the hill and went down to the Umatilla River Valley. And this is our third year of explorations in the Blue Mountains. And a couple of years ago, in 2021, we partnered with the National Park Service to explore wagon ruts on the Westminster Woods Church Camp property, which is just south of Emigrant Springs State Park. And we also took that opportunity to check out the 1959 Oregon State Highway Department route west of Interstate 84. Last year, we went back to the same area and checked out the Jack Evans mapped ruts along that Oregon State Highway Department route. And we walked to the toll road north of Ross Road, which extends about 3 miles from the state park down to Ross Road, just west of Meacham. And we explored some Pendleton and LeGrand wagon road ruts on the Arthur Robinson property, which is north of Meacham along Highway 30. And we checked out the ruts near Dead Man's Pass on the Valerie Connor property. We also went on a hike to some springs across the freeway from the park, led by Mark Miller, who was then the Emigrant Springs State Park manager. When you got the notice for this particular presentation from Marley, you should have had an attachment with it that has links to all of our digital documentation for the last 3 years. I also put a link to that PDF in the chat. So if you didn't get the attachment from Marley, go into the chat and find the link to the document and download that. That'll give you access to all the presentations and YouTube videos and Google Maps and some Google photo albums that I've put together over the last 3 years. Now to the subject of this particular presentation, what we did in 2023. In May, we were up there for 4 days. We walked the toll road from Emigrant Springs down to Ross Road again with a new group of people. And we explored the Terry Golfer property north of Meacham and the Fran Fife property north of Meacham. We also did a hike from Pelican Creek down to Hillgard State Park. And we explored Pendleton Ranch's property southeast of Meacham. That's on the U.S. Weather Bureau Station Hill is what I call it. And we were back in July doing some trail marking on that Weather Bureau Station Hill. And this is an overview map showing where all of these hikes and explorations were. Our first was let's see, I'm going to get my laser pointer out. Okay, first was the toll road hike from the park here down to Ross Road, down in this area west of the freeway. Our next exploration was the Golter and Fife properties, which were just north of Meacham. This is the Jack Evans campsite there at Meacham. We then did the Pelican Creek to Hillgard State Park hike, which is down here closer to LeGrand. This is where the Grand Ronde River flows east into the valley here. And our fourth day, we did our hike on the explorations on the Weather Bureau Hill up here in this area. The close-up of our toll road hike. The Emigrant Springs State Park is up off the top of the map here. This icon here is the Mike Urbis cabin, which we visited on our first trip over in 2021. But we walked the toll road all the way down here to Ross Road down here. And a couple of things here on this map. This is an Emigrant Springs, an Emigrant Road surveyor note location from 1863, just on the north side of Meacham. This note says that the Emigrant Road goes north 40 degrees west. In other words, following Highway 30 and coming up through here. And the toll road also goes through some surveyor note locations here. They call this an old stage road. Here's the Westminster Woods Church Camp property here, their chapel out here. And this is the Emigrant Springs State Park office location right here. And here's our toll road group. Getting ready to hike the toll road. I think we're on the pipeline corridor here. And here we're walking the road from the pipeline corridor from the park down toward the Mike Urbis cabin. And here from from that road, this is where we began our toll road hike, and this is it going down to the southeast. And here we're walking the toll road toward the Westminster Woods Church Camp property. And here we're entering the Westminster Woods Church Camp property on the road. And they have placed a bench along the wagon ruts here. And their chapel is off over here to the left of the slide. And leaving the Westminster Woods Church Camp property, we now go across some John Hancock life insurance property where they've recently logged. So they didn't really damage too much of the toll road, but we had to walk through, across this area here. A little bit changed from when our previous year's hikes. And we come to a road junction here. The toll road actually goes off to the right here behind Jenny, down toward the southeast toward Ross Road. And to the left of this picture is there's a wagon rut road that goes to the left here, goes north to the end of Westminster Lane near the Emigrant Springs State Park office location.
Robin, this is Dave Welch. How do you relate the toll road to the Oregon Trail, both in space and time?
They're separate roads. The toll road was built by the Meacham brothers in 1863, and it is west of the freeway. The Oregon Trail is east of the freeway along Highway 30. This is a photo that shows both of the roads here. This is the toll road going south here, and then this road, or whatever you want to call it, going off to the end of Westminster Lane. This is an older photograph from 2021 showing both roads. And we eventually cross the pipeline corridor, and there's a road, wagon ruts that closely parallel the pipeline corridor. And you can see this is an obvious wagon rut going down through here. And here's Jenny walking in the middle of those ruts. You can see an opening over here on the left-hand side of the slide. This is the pipeline corridor. This is kept clear of brush and trees, and there's a road going the length of it. So it's an obvious landmark going through the entire area. Now, we had one of our participants in this hike was Kate Eli from the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. She's a hydrologist, and she was interested in springs that we might find along here. So we did a side trip at this point over to a spring that I had found, or we had found in 2021. And here's the spring itself here. And this was off to the west of the toll road. One of the things that marks the spring location is the presence of this darker green here as a species of juncus or a rush that's not very tall. There are species that are 6 feet tall, but this is a small one here that you'll find near springs. You'll see more of this later. And this particular spring was developed by somebody, probably the landowner, Forest Recovery, and they had run an underground pipe here to a cattle trough out here, but in the trees. I didn't actually get a picture of it, but it's off in the trees here. So they had developed this spring. And now we're back on the pipeline corridor. We're crossing over, still following the toll road. There's our wagon ruts on the east or north side of the pipeline corridor, heading toward 2 Mile Creek. And we walked down to 2 Mile Creek, but we didn't, as in previous years, cross it because of we had a large group and it's pretty problematic crossing the creek. So we simply followed the creek to the south down back to the pipeline corridor and walked this down to Ross Road. And here's a map of the toll road, the toll road, and this is the purple dots are following right along it, and how it goes by all of these surveyor note locations. This is the old stage road here. Down here we have the toll road here. This is an 1864 surveyor note location saying, you know, Pendleton and Pendleton to LeGrand toll road going northwest. So now to answer your question, Dave, this is the freeway here, and we have down here on the north end of Meacham surveyor note location for the Emigrant Road, saying that the Emigrant Road goes north 40 degrees west. So the GLO maps, which I'll eventually show you, show the road coming up through this wagon road here and to what the 1887 or 1882 surveyors call the Pendleton and LeGrand Wagon Road. And this is another overview here. These photographs here are the aerial photographs taken by the Oregon State Highway Department in 1971 as part of an aerial photo survey that they did of the Oregon Trail from the Snake River to the Dalles, following the route that they had mapped in the late 1950s. And I've superimposed the surveyor note locations on here to show those locations. And here's a close up here. Let me just briefly. Here's Meacham in the lower right here, and this Emigrant Road surveyor note location for north 40 degrees west, going this way along Highway 30. This is an 1864 surveyor note location called for the toll road. This is an 1887 surveyor note location for a Pendleton LeGrand Wagon Road. This had all been going across here, joining this surveyor note, and this surveyor note is the Willamette baseline. So when the 1863 surveyor, Timothy Davenport, surveyed and established the location of the Willamette baseline, he noted the Emigrant Road here, but he didn't find anything here. This is from 23 years later at the 1887 survey, which resurveyed this baseline here. This is from the 1864 survey done of sections 2 and 3 in the Meacham area, indicating that the toll road went northwest and southeast. And you can see the toll road that we walked going across here. Right here is 2 Mile Creek. Here's where it crosses the pipeline corridor and parallels the pipeline corridor through here, crossing the pipeline corridor again, and then going north to that junction that I showed in one of the one of the photographs. And we're a little bit further north on this slide here. And
Robin, I think it'd be useful to point out to the others where Francois and Haynes and all the rest of the people.
I'm not going to go over that, Dave, because that was all in my previous presentation.
It was, but it's
the
we're
follow
not.
the links in the PDF. You can go all you could watch those presentations and learn all about that.
Okay.
This particular presentation today is about our 2023 explorations, and I'm just providing some background here. I don't have time to go into all of that over again. Toll road coming here. Here's the junction I showed you, and this branch goes off over here to Westminster Lane, and this goes through the surveyor note locations here and to the north. This is the Mike Urbis cabin is down in here, and this is where we had started our hike. And this is the northern part of that same area. Okay, the next day we were on the during the morning we explored the Terry Golfer property, and we also in the afternoon we explored the Fran 5 property. But this is the Terry Golfer property. This is just north of Meacham, and I'll show you a location map in a minute. But this area here was fairly flat and with an even age stand of lodgepole pine. So not a whole lot of ruts on this that we found. And it appears as though it might have been logged at some point. Thus, you'd have the even age stand of lodgepole pine. And here's the GLO map. This is the Willamette baseline is along here. At the bottom here, Meacham is just off the map to the south, and the Golfer property and the 5 property. And here's a detailed map. This is where that surveyor note location for the old Emigrant Road is right here. This is on the north side of Meacham, north 40 degrees west. This is why the GLO cartographer drew it up through here and joining the Pendleton-LeGrand Wagon Road here. This is labeled on the map itself. I'm just showing you a detail here. And here's some photos of the Golfer property. These are some possible wagon ruts here, very, very subtle. And it wasn't until we got down toward the southern part of the property during our explorations that we found some more obvious wagon ruts going down through here. Following down through here. In the afternoon, we went to the Fran 5 property. And these are the wagon ruts we found on that property. These are associated with the surveyor note locations for the Pendleton-LeGrand Wagon Road. And this property adjoins just to the north of the Arthur Robinson property that we explored last year. The Pendleton-LeGrand Wagon Road going up through here. So these really join nicely with the ruts we found the previous year. It's a small property, so we didn't have a lot to explore here. Third day, we're down on Pendleton Creek to Hillgard State Park. I'd always wanted to hike this, and I did one August by myself go up here and explore partway. But being August, it was very, very hot, and I didn't get very far. But this year, we decided to you know, to do it justice. This is a rather complicated map here, but let me show you. Where we started here on Pelican Creek. I'm going to go back here for a minute. I think what I need to do here is show you the down on the bottom here is the Hillgard State Park. This is the Grand Ronde River flowing east down toward La Grande. This is the little town of Hillgard here. And this is what they call 5 Points Creek Road. And this is where Pelican Creek flows in from the west and meets 5 Points Creek right here. This, of course, is the freeway. And just about we drove up this road here and about a mile up Pelican Creek and parked here, and then hiked southeast across this ridge all the way back down to Hillgard State Park, actually very close to it. This is Pelican Creek Road. We're about a mile from where it meets 5 Points Creek here. And we started hiking. The red dots are our path. And we're following the Jack Evans mapped route. That's the hatched broad line in the background. The orange teardrops are OCTA markers from Chuck Hornbuckle's spreadsheet in his interim report. The blue teardrops are locations of OCTA markers that we've verified with modern GPS with an error of, say, 4 meters, as opposed to GPS in the late 1990s was probably, I don't know, 150 feet, 200 feet. But walking across this, we didn't find any of these. Probably this one up here is this one here. But we followed the Jack Evans mapped route across here. And this is heading up from Pelican Creek to the south, going up the hill. And there are some, kind of maybe some faint ruts up through this area. You got a little further up the hill, we can see some ruts here. Hard to see in this photo because of the grass. But you can kind of see here how the ruts go up through here, rather faint. And here's Mark. It's standing in the middle of those ruts. And we eventually emerge into a large clearing here. You can see that there is water in this area. Here's the rushes that I mentioned before, the plant that grows where there's water here. Over this ridge here, you'll see the slide, but there's the Jack Evans camping area near a spring that the pioneers used. And this is looking back across that same clearing. You can see there where the rushes are here and where there's likely water. And here's a spring-fed pond. This is the Jack Evans camping area here. This was about a couple miles from where they camped at Hillgard. So especially later in the, say in the early 1850s, and I assume because the road had gotten better through use, a lot of the pioneers came over. They didn't stop at Hillgard. They came another couple of miles over here and camped in this area, and that's reflected in the in some of the diaries. And we continue along the side of the ridge. This is our lunch break here. You can see the terrain here, slightly sloping ponderosa pine, very grassy. And here we're moving across the top of several gullies here. Again, we're following the Jack Evans route. And we're still looking for ruts. Didn't see anything real obvious in through this area. And we come to the top of the ridge here, and this is the road that goes all along the top of the ridge here. And we're looking south. Down below here is Hillgard State Park and the Grand Ronde River. And here's another location map. That previous slide was right here. And we did find ruts coming down here. And I'll show you those in a minute. And these are some old, again, the orange teardrop icons are the octomarker locations from Chuck Hornbuckle's report. And the blue teardrops are the ones that we actually found and documented. So it comes down off of here and onto a saddle here. And the octomarkers come around the ridge here. They end right here. All along here is a vertical cliff created by the highway construction. So if you come down here, you're not going to come down this way. And here's the ruts coming down off of the ridge, going to the east. You can see the swale underneath the log that's spanning it here. And this is looking down toward the saddle down here. The ruts coming through down through this area. And this is looking back up toward the ridge. The ruts come down through the trees here. This area is cleared here. It looks like one of the power companies had possibly cleared this for a power line corridor that was never built, but it's rather strange. Obviously, it had been cleared. And we move, following some faint ruts and octomarkers toward the top of a gully right here. The Grand Ronde River and Hillgard State Park are down below this. And an octomarker here as we kind of side hill around, the gully being down on the left here. And we didn't follow the octomarkers around. We wanted to get off the hill, so we came down off to the east and following a power line here, some power poles down. This is pretty steep, and this is from almost all the way down, looking back up to following the power poles down. We had to negotiate a barbed wire fence here, which was rather problematic in order to get all the way down, but we made it safely down. This is a photo I took later from across the river, actually, of that gully that we crossed. And here you can see one of the power poles that we followed to get off the hill down this way. The octomarkers come around. There's a couple of them over here. We didn't visit that location. They come around here, but this is the cliff that was formed by the construction of the I-84. And this is a little bit to the west. This is from Hillgard State Park, and the octomarkers kind of end up. There's an octomarker on top of this cliff here. You can see it actually if you're across the river and looking up there with a pair of binoculars or a sharp eye. There's power poles coming through here. These are the same power poles that we followed going east. to get off the hill. And this is them coming to the west. And maybe possible to come off the hill around this way, come down this way too, but we didn't do that. Okay, on our fourth day, we went to explore the Pendleton Ranches property, which is southeast of Meacham. Meacham is off the slide to the north here. I call this the U.S. Weather Bureau Station Hill because of the old U.S. Weather Bureau station that's on top of the hill here. This was active, I think, from 1948 to 1975, but it's now all Pendleton Ranches property. And on this property, there are 4 immigrant road surveyor note locations. There's one here just above. This is Todd Creek coming down through here and meeting Meacham Creek. This is Lee's encampment down here. There's one here, and there's one here, and one that's might be on the bottom of the map, but I can't see it because of the zoom. And I wish I knew how to get rid of that. I'll figure that out later. Here's the GLO map. This is the Willamette baseline here. And the 1864 surveyor of sections 3 and 10. This is Lee's encampment, or the Meacham area right here. And the labels that are on the map, the Foster Toll Road and the old Immigrant Wagon Road going up over. This is our Pendleton Ranches hill right here. Here's a little close up here so you can see that a little better. We explored along this area here. And we had a smaller group for this exploration. This was a fairly lengthy one. And this is the area, this is down near the bottom. We drove onto Pendleton Ranches property and camped by a couple of their farm buildings. This is a fence line that doesn't go east and west or north and south. It doesn't follow any section line, but up in here is where the first Immigrant Road surveyor note location is located. And we started up the hill, crossing another pipeline corridor. This is also a power line corridor that goes up the hill, or across the hill rather. And this is the terrain that we're hiking through, lightly wooded, mixed forest. And we're following Jack Evans' mapped route through here. And we come upon, there's some ruts here coming up the hill. And we ran into another smaller power line corridor coming down here. And there's an associated dirt road with this, which confused it at first, but it's not really the Oregon Trail. And we emerge into a very large clearing on top of the hill. In the background here, you can see the U.S. Weather Bureau station, a couple of larger buildings here, now in use by Steve Corey of Pendleton Ranches. But this reminds me of why one of the reasons that we do these explorations is just the beauty of being outdoors. All of these wildflowers across the meadow and the clouds in the sky. but the Oregon Trail came right through here. This is also the site of a landing strip. You can sort of see it a little bit here. It's marked. There's some old tires marking it, and some other markers. Okay, this is a marked molehill on the dirt road that extends south from the U.S. Weather Bureau station. And this may actually be right. This might be the Emigrant Road right here. Might be the Oregon Trail with the road on top of it, basically. And we come down toward near the end of that dirt road, and we find an OCTA marker here. And we found several of these during our explorations and documented their location, even though this one doesn't look like it's actually in the ground. It was probably laying on the ground or leaning up against a tree. The cattle like to rub up against them, so they eventually gotta get knocked over. And this is wagon ruts near one of the old Emigrant Road surveyor note locations. There's about a half mile south of the Weather Bureau station. We're moving south again, following the Jack Evans ruts locations. And these are wagon ruts going through here along the edge of this clearing here. Okay, and then we got to our last, or actually our third Emigrant Road surveyor note location, and because of time constraints, we decided to head back, and we came back up through found some OCTA markers and followed them back north, and this is one of the markers that we found. And I think off here was a logging operation, so we're right on the edge of that, and we're heading back north. There's some ruts going through here. Again, our logging area that's logged is off to the east, off to the right here in the picture. And going through here, this is a sample of the terrain. A lot of blowdown. Not too bad. This isn't too bad. Just step over all the logs that are on the floor of the forest. Yeah, another OCTA marker, but you can see this dense growth here. We had to occasionally fight our way through some of this going north. And this is another example here. This is kind of this might be a rut, but it might just be a cattle trail. They do graze cattle up here, so but this is some of the smaller growth that we sometimes had to fight our way through. And we eventually made it back to the to this OCTA marker here. This is near the end of that dirt road I showed you earlier. And we walked the dirt road back to the U.S. Weather Bureau station to end our hike. And that was the fourth exploration we did in May. And now I'm going to talk about our July trail marking expedition. At the request of Steve Corey, we planned a trail marking trip to the Pendleton Ranches property for July 6th through the 8th. And they had planned to log areas of east of this. You can see the power line corridor coming through here, log areas east of this. So, and as time was short, we used yellow surveyor's tape to mark a wide swath on either side of the trail ruts we found during our May explorations. And we also explored and marked wagon ruts along the lower portion of this route that we hadn't explored in May. So we did this area down here too. And here's a detailed map of the northern part of this this trail marking trip. U.S. Weather Bureau station here. This is the blue is our route coming back through here. This is a GPS track following OCTA markers down through here. We marked this, and I think the black is that power line that we thought for a bit was part of the Emigrant Road. And this is the southern portion of the Pendleton Ranches property. I've marked an icon here. We could drive to this location here, the end of the dirt road. And we had, we explored down through here. This was the brown markers are our path through here. And the green is the next day's trip. We actually started from down here, parked along the freeway, and then walked up through here past the, following the Jack Evans ruts locations, and came up to this Immigrant Road surveyor note location here. We came back through this area. Okay, this is the previous. There's a logging of an area that had been logged over here to the east of our route. I didn't take a lot of photographs on this trail marking expedition because I was, marking trail. We each had a roll of surveyor's tape, and we marked a wide swath on either side of the ruts that we had found in May, and the ones we discovered also on this trip too. This is we're at an OCTA marker here, and Jenny's getting ready to mark it with the surveyor's tape.
I look scary.
You look scary? Not too scary. And here's some of the wagon ruts along the edge of a clearing. We we marked on either side of the ruts that we found, so that the loggers, when they were out there, would see the surveyor's tape and not go inside the boundary that we had marked. That was the agreement we had with Steve Corey. And here's that same area here with Jenny getting ready to mark this tree, probably on either side of the ruts, which are back in here.
Has that logging been accomplished at this point?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I haven't been back up there.
They were going to log, all summer and into the fall. So I don't know what the status is. We'll be back up there at toward the end of this month, and we'll probably find out from Steve Corey at that time. Now, if Mark was on the call, he might have talked to Steve Corey and would know, but I don't think Mark made the call.
I haven't seen him on here.
Okay.
I do know, this is Wendell, and I do know, well, I know where some of those early markers were from. I probably put one of them in about 91, 92.
Yeah.
Sesquicentennial.
Yeah.
We were up there prior to 93. I know one of the concerns expressed by Keith May is that sometimes there is quite a gray area between what Steve Corey says and what the loggers really do or don't do.
Yeah.
Now, I know that Keith was very concerned that the area that we had marked in previous years, they were following some of the trees and stuff across the trail and actually degrading it with some kind of mechanized equipment. Now, I never did go up and check it, and that's based totally on Keith May's observation or understanding, and don't know anything more than that. But if you guys go, if and when go back up, wouldn't hurt to stick a nose in there and see what's going on.
I think the biggest difference between then and now is that my impression is that Steve has really gotten a much better understanding of history and wanting to preserve it, whereas 30 years ago, it was not as much of a concern. And he is very much willing to protect as much of the trail now that he knows is on the property. So I think he's had a huge attitude shift for the better for us anyway. He and his loggers too were very, very excited about being able to preserve as much of the trail as possible. They've been educated on it, and they have their own interest in it, and they were willing to share that interest with us. So I was very pleased when we ran into them when we were doing the marking.
Okay, no, I was just sharing what had been from previous time, and that may be true.
Yeah.
I know that in previous time, Mr. Corey was head of the Oregon Trail Coordinating Council and all the other stuff, setting up the sesquicentennial, and words were exchanged, and there may have been quite a bit of gray area, let's put it that way. So I think to re-verify would be fine.
Yeah, we'll be we'll be up there marking actually the ruts that are north of the Mount Emily interchange.
Okay, you bet.
We can easily drive up to the Weather Bureau station and you know, and check out that area up there when we're there. Again, if we have time. So here we're marking, and this is less scary, I think, Jenny. Jenny marking a tree there.
I like that one a lot better.
Yeah, okay. Like I say, you know, I didn't take a whole lot of photographs on this marking expedition here, so I didn't have a lot to choose from. And here we are headed back again through one of the clearings. The you know, kind of walking along where the Jack Evans mapped ruts show on his maps in Powerful Rocky. And these are, I didn't put these on the previous map just to leave it uncluttered, but these are the OCTA markers. On the northern part of the property. Again, the orange is from the Chuck Hornbuckle's interim report. And these are the ones we verified. They're all along this road here. We did it along this path here. This is a path of ruts that go right down here to the power line. We did not go below the power line. They had planned on logging to the east of the power line, so we didn't have time to do this down here. And to the U.S. Weather Bureau station, and showing the extent to which we can drive here. And this is the southern portion here. Where we parked on the freeway here and walked up this way. These are good ruts through here. These are all where we verified OCTA markers up through here. This is the Emigrant Road surveyor note location here. And here's our next one up here. The Jack Evans mapped route goes this way here. And at this point, the OCTA markers went this way. So I don't know, this is a broad ridge up here. So, you know, wagons could just as easily have gone along the edge up here as over here. But this is where we found the OCTA markers. We did find ruts at this location and also in this location along up here along a clearing. And like I said, we'll be back toward the end of the month. We have planned on doing the Mount Emily Mount Emily interchange, ruts just north of the interchange. Again, this is on Pendleton Ranches Incorporated property, and there's probably a couple of miles of OCTA markers and ruts in that area. So stay tuned for another report. Questions?
And I know, Wendell again, I know that Vic Bolden led marking teams up into that area mid 1990s or so, and I'm assuming those records are still available too.
That's Chuck Hornbuckle's interim report. I have nothing else. Do you know of any other reports?
I don't know if the report was full. First thing, I don't know what was filed. I was in the transition then, but I know that Vic Bolden led a group up in there across that area and remarked some of that section. And I'm saying it must have been in the late 90s.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
that's when it was. But the data is actually reflected in Chuck Hornbuckle's report.
okay. And I didn't know that. So
yeah, he was part of the team. I picked up a lot of the mapping committee reports from Rich's this past weekend, and I have them, and I'm going to go through them page by page. There's a half dozen or so big 3-inch binders, and I'll go through it and see if there's some additional information in there. Something to point out here is that the same marker, when Robin and the crew go out and record a marker, will have different coordinates than are recorded in Chuck Hornbuckle's data. And so the marker is in the right location, but the data is not correct. And that's due to primarily to the fact that the GPS units that were in use in the 90s were not as accurate as the ones we use now. They had a purposeful degradation in them that was done in order to make the GPS units not usable to potential enemies. This is a military system, started as a military system. So it's kind of interesting to look at the markers that Robin and the crew recorded, and then also Chuck's markers. They are the same marker, but they show up in two different locations. And I think, as Wendell pointed out, much of this work was done in association with the sesquicentennial in 1993. And so it's been 30 years since this work has been done. And so it's really great that Robin and the crew have gone back in there to see the status of the marking that's there, and also to get better recordings of where the posts are. And there's a lot of opportunities for additional work in that area. I know Robin would be happy to have additional people join them in future explorations and marking.
And I do know that some of those first, and Robin, I apologize, but some of those first markers were put in, you held your finger up in the air and say, yep, that's close enough. And you tried to mark it on the map and get it there. So there were GPSs were simply not even available.
Yeah, and that's been one of the problems all along with all of the various mapping efforts. And I did go over this in one of my earlier presentations. How did people decide, where they were, or where a particular, say, an OCTA marker or other feature was on a map? Before the mid 1960s, the 7.5 minute USGS quadrangles weren't available. They weren't used by the Oregon State Highway Department in the late 1950s because they hadn't been produced yet. They used large scale, low resolution county maps. So if you're following their route, for instance, the dots that say these are where the wagon ruts are. The dots are, over 500 feet wide. So there's this wide swath of where they might be. Well, where did they decide that the trail was? What features could they use? you know, all of that area between Emigrant Springs State Park and in Meacham, say, where they marked on to the west of the freeway, it's all featureless. The only feature through there is the pipeline. And the pipeline was there in the mid 1950s. So that was really the only thing by which they could orient where, you know, where they thought they were and where they thought the trail was. So I did go over all of that in one of my previous presentations, and you know, I didn't want to do that all over again on this particular trip, because I wanted to concentrate on our explorations this last summer and the marking that we, you know, that we did. Gradually, we're getting this all pieced together with some accurate information about where things are.
And we have recordings of those earlier presentations also. If you contact me, I can
They're all the links are all in the PDF that Marley sent out.
of our recordings too. I didn't look in detail at it.
Yes.
Okay.
All the digital documentation for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I also put a link to that PDF in the chat. So if you didn't get the note from Marley with the PDF, you can go in the chat and click that link and download the PDF, and then follow links in there to all the presentations, the Google Maps with photographs, and the Google photo albums that I put together. I'm always working on the photo albums, so you know, adding photos or deleting them or doing stuff. So, but the link will still work regardless of what I do. What I've got on the briefly here, what I've got on the screen now is all of the surveyor note locations from LeGrand up to, well, actually, Dead Man's Pass. These all come from the surveyor notes of the various surveys that were done. You'll notice that these down here, the road is called by the surveyors the stage road. This is coming up right up the river from LeGrand, right up the river. This was probably built about 1863, when there was a lot of eastbound traffic to the gold mines near Baker City. The red dots are the older trail going up over the hill. I haven't gotten to you know, these townships yet to look at the surveyor notes, so I don't have proper symbols for those or exact locations. As we get further north here, again, this is 1874. If we get up in here, this is 1882. We have a lot of toll road and Emigrant Road surveyor note locations, and as you can see, they're in different locations. But as we get north of the park here, we suddenly the road becomes called the Pendleton-LeGrand Wagon Road by the surveyors who surveyed this. This is 1887. So the road, you know, over time became known by different names. You know, it could be called Toll Road, it could be called Stage Road, Pendleton-LeGrand Wagon Road, or in some cases the old Emigrant Road here. This is the Lee's encampment. Okay, and here's the Pendleton and Pendleton Ranches property we were just talking about here. Here's the north side of Meacham, the surveyor note for the old Emigrant Road, course north 40 degrees west. And then the toll road here, toll road from Umatilla to Grand Ronde bears southeast and northwest. And this is where the Oregon State Highway Department marked the Oregon Trails being over here, but when in fact it's over here. This is a toll road going here that we walk, and these markers here are old Stage Road. Again, this is later, 1887. they're calling it an old stage road because it probably was gradually not being used very much. The railroad came over in 1885 from Pendleton to LeGrand and through Meacham. So people started shipping and traveling via train rather than freight wagon or stage. I go over this in more detail in some of my other presentations of the past couple of years, but I'm gradually working on working on through these townships, looking at the surveyor notes and seeing where they are. There are some areas here moving the map here. Some gaps here. Here's a stage road here. This is the Blue Mountain Crossing interpretive site. Stage road marker here. Stage road surveyor note location here and one up here, but there's a gap in here. And when I looked, the corresponding surveyor notes are missing from the BLM website, and I've got the page numbers listed there for this whole area in here. So they're simply not there. If I discover those, then I can fill this in. But you know, logically, if you have a stage road here and then you have one up here and the toll road here, this all connects up. Let's see. And this is a, oops. And why did I do that? Okay. This is one of the Google photo albums that I put together for the Oregon Trail over the Blue Mountains. And it's got all kinds of things here. Here's the 1863 survey of the Willamette baseline, and where they say where Timothy Davenport labeled the old Emigrant Road on that Willamette baseline. Here's some of the other This is the 1864 survey of sections 3 and 10. The blue dot is Lee's encampment or the Meacham area, but this is the toll road going through here. This is the 1863 surveyor note. Toll road going to the northwest, Emigrant Road going, oops. Anyway, you could see a lot of that, you know, a lot of these maps on the Google photo album, and you'll find a link to that in the PDF. Here's one of them. This is the explainer that I put together and used in a previous presentation. This is Meacham right here. The green outline is sections 3 and 10 surveyed in 1864. This is the Willamette baseline surveyed in 1863. This is the township 1 south, range 35 east, which I think was 1882, and 1 north, 35 east, 1887. So there are gaps in when these townships were surveyed, and they call the road different things. Here we start to see some Pendleton and LeGrand wagon road designations by the surveyors, and old stage road here. This is our toll road that we hiked. And here's the 1864 surveyor note. There's southeast and northwest. Toll road from Umatilla to Grand Ronde, and the old Emigrant Road here. And the Emigrant Road surveyor note location up on the Pendleton ranch's property that I showed a photograph of the location of. But anyway, there's a whole lot of stuff in that, links in that PDF. That will provide additional information and background on all of this Oregon Trail location information.
Robin, for next year, for 2024, we have the convention, and Robin has volunteered to lead a hike at the convention, and also I think presenting a paper. At least I think that's the current planning that's going on. Do you anticipate doing any more field activities in 2024 following up from this?
Definitely, yeah, we'll be up there again in May. Probably in the same time frame, right after Mother's Day, before Memorial Day. And when I get that firmed up, I'll send, I think, Wendell, are you keeping the calendar?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, I'll send you that information, but there's no reason why we can't go up there again and do some more, do some more explanations. There's definitely gaps in, in what we've done, and more to be done.
Okay, thank you very much, Robin. Very enlightening as usual, and very well presented. Really appreciate what you're doing there. In particular, I like your comments on the natural things also, in addition to our historical things, to give the perspective to it. So thanks very much for all your effort here.